TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reiterates his conviction that Israel would definitely be destroyed and warns Saudi Arabia against betting on what he referred to as a losing horse. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responds to the threats voiced in Tehran, proclaiming Jerusalem's undeterred aspiration to enlarge its circle of peace. Former Israeli National Security Advisor Dr. Eyal Hulata asserts to TV7 that Saudi-Israeli peace would fortify the existence of Israel in the region. IDF, ISA, and Border Police Special Operations Forces conducted extensive counter-terror activities throughout the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria over the past 48 hours. During the course of this activity, a relatively large amount of weaponry was located and subsequently confiscated. Moreover, in the city of Hebron, Palestinian militants opened fire and hurled an improvised explosive device toward the Israeli troops. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. Separately, in the village of Yazun, a Palestinian militant hurled a Molotov cocktail toward an IDF post. The troops, who operated at the location, responded with live fire, and according to the IDF spokesperson's unit, a hit was identified. All in all, at the culmination of the operational activities, a total of 29 suspected terror operatives were successfully apprehended. Turning to Iran, where the Islamic Republic's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, addressing an Islamic Unity Conference in Tehran, referred to Israel as a cancer that will definitely be destroyed by the hands of the Palestinians and what he referred to as resistance forces in the entire region.
This cancer will definitely be destroyed by the hands of the Palestinians and the resistance forces in the entire region, God willing.
The Iranian Supreme Leader, whose proxy forces continue to foment terror at Tehran's behest throughout the region, went on to address prospective normalization between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Israel.
The definite position of the Islamic Republic is that countries that make the gamble of normalization with Israel will lose. They are betting on a losing horse.
In response to Ayatollah Khamenei, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during a tour of Israel's northeastern Golan Heights, not far from the armistice line with Syria, voiced confidence in prospective peacemaking between Jerusalem and Riyadh.
While Khamenei's terrorist regime exports ruin and destruction, Israel is advancing progress and peace. Just as Iran did not prevent us from achieving the Abraham Accords, neither will Iran prevent us from further expanding the circle of peace for the benefit of the citizens of Israel, the peoples of the region, and all humanity.
It is worth highlighting that during a TV7 Jerusalem studio panel, which is scheduled to air on Friday, former Israeli National Security Advisor Dr. Eyal Hulata highlighted the significance of prospective Saudi-Israeli normalization.
By and large, normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia is potentially the most important, transformative piece of diplomatic work that can be done to fortify the existence of Israel in the region, the integration of it, both economically, diplomatically, religiously, in a host of things that are very, very important for the future of the region.
It is important to explain that while every passing day draws Israel and Saudi Arabia closer to normalizing their relations, three core Saudi demands are vigorously deliberated in both Jerusalem and Washington. These include a U.S.-Saudi defense treaty, which would require support of at least 2/3 or 67 votes in favor in the U.S. Senate, unspecified Israeli concessions toward the Palestinian Authority, which Jerusalem officials deem unlikely within the current composition of the Israeli government, and last but not least, the Saudis demand a fuel cycle nuclear program, which is a point of deep concern within Israel's defense establishment. And while officials speaking on behalf of the Israeli government have already noted that the latter could be resolved with the right mechanisms in place, Dr. Hulata, who's currently a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, voiced his personal concern.
People speaking on behalf of the government have already said that Israel may agree to a civilian nuclear program in Saudi Arabia. My concern, and I've also dealt with this, of course, in the past, is that a civilian nuclear program, if it has the entire set of components, what is called the fuel cycle, the entire fuel cycle, which means that if in such a case, if the Saudis possess that technology or have access to that technology, they can enrich uranium as they wish, and they can produce fissile materials that is necessary for a bomb. That is the risk. And having that proliferated around the Middle East is very, very dangerous.
Israel's former National Security Council director, who previously also served as a Mossad division chief, went on to warn that granting Saudi Arabia the full scale of its nuclear wishes could result in a regional race of nuclear proliferation.
When we look at precedents, one of the problems is that when the JCPOA was signed, the Americans and the other parties that Amir has mentioned before have signed on an agreement that actually legitimized a nuclear fuel cycle in Iran, legitimizing enrichment. And with clauses that allow Iran to normalize that over time. And that is a major problem because there is already a precedent delivered by those countries. And the Saudis are piggybacking on that and saying, well, if you allow this to the Iranians, why can't we have it? And I think this is a point in time where it is appropriate to ensure that this does not proliferate further. Because the more it does, there will be more countries asking for it. And if the Saudis can have enrichment capabilities, what will the Emiratis say, for instance, which signed on the what was called the gold standard 1, 2, 3 arrangement with the Americans, got nuclear reactors without enrichment?
Dr. Hulata further stressed a crucial necessity for both Israel and the United States to think strategically in the long term, rather than finding temporary solutions that could result in newly emerging challenges decades from today.
My main concern is that the people who are negotiating now different sorts of arrangements may think that they have a temporary solution that can hold for a certain amount of time, but as time will progress, this risk will elevate. The Saudis will say now, we can trust us. We want other issues. We have a common adversary as Iran, so this can work. But, we have to think of things not only in 10 years framework, but in 30, 40, 50 years framework. And over time, I think this is a very dangerous course of action.
To watch the full edition of this panel, which marks a milestone of 800 Jerusalem studio episodes, to include Dr. Eyal Hulata, along with U.S. Ambassador William Robach, TV7 Editor-at-Large Amir Oren, and myself, will air this upcoming Friday. For more information, please visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Turning to Washington, where U.S. State Department Deputy Spokesman Vedant Patel responded to a question regarding the blatant warning voiced in Tehran over prospective normalization between Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
I'm not sure that we are really interested in the Supreme Leader's point of view on this when it comes to what we think could be a potentially transformative normalization agreement for the region. What I will also just add is that part of this, of course, with these countries, with Israel, with, of course, Saudi Arabia, the nexus of our bilateral relationships with both of these countries is, of course, the role that they play in countering and combating against the malign and destabilizing activities that the Iranian regime partakes in the region.
Patel went on to acknowledge that while extensive efforts are being made by all stakeholders to realize a normalization accord between Riyadh and Jerusalem, to realize a shift in bilateral Saudi-Israeli relations still requires an incredible amount of legwork, diplomacy, discipline, rigor.
Many of the key elements of a pathway towards normalization are now on the table, and there is broad understanding of those elements, which we're certainly not going to get into the specifics of these diplomatic engagements publicly. What I will also say is that this requires the specifics require an incredible amount of legwork, diplomacy, discipline, rigor, and all of the stakeholders being deeply engaged in this. I will note, though, we don't have a formal framework and we don't have the terms ready to be signed. There's still lots of work to do, and we're continuing to work that process. We believe, though, as part of our efforts to advance a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous and stable Middle East region, that continuing our support for full normalization with Israel and continue to talk to our regional partners about how more progress can be made. And that's what we're going to continue to stay focused on.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to point out that TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry, and therefore if you're blessed by productions and would like to help support keeping TV7 Israel on air, please consider making a donation. To do so, you can visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, and for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Tov Mevorach as well as a Chag Sameach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.